afternoon. Trey Gibson here. Big Things Fantasy Football League. And today we're discussing the states of the franchise. Two franchises in particular. As you can see, I'm decked out in all black. Got my black shirt on, my black jacket. Why, you're asking me? Is there a death around? Yes, there is. Folks, it saddens me to say that we have two teams that have been buried at the bottom of the barrel for a long period of time. First team we're going to discuss today is the Connecticut Legends. Connecticut Legends, expansion team last year. You say, what can you expect? But, teams like this prompted us at the studio to change the way that we go about doing this program in particular. Usually, we would devote one whole program of State of the Franchise to a franchise in particular, giving them the due justice that they need publicly to the rest of the league. But because we've had teams that didn't monitor their teams, didn't actually pursue bargains, or didn't take advantage of the waiver wire, we're going to combine those teams to reduce the effect of needless speech or needless publicity for teams who show no improvement throughout the course of their tenure in the Big Things Fantasy Football League. Let's just talk about, I'm not even going to talk about what was drafted with the Connecticut Legends. Let's just talk about what's on the roster. If you're looking at the makeup of the roster, you're wondering why they can't win games, they can't produce, they can't become effective. It's because, they got Chad Pennington at quarterback. Whippy, Chad Pennington. A bomb for him is 15 yards because his arms are so weak. The good thing about this team is that I can see where they actually put a lot of faith in Jamal Lewis, but Derek Ward, maybe not so much as then, maybe now. So maybe that was a futuristic pick. We'll see. Work done. Wasn't the man in Tampa, and pretty much just like his last name, that's why he's done. Hines Ward, Marvin Harrison. If you didn't know 2 years ago Marvin Harrison wasn't going to recover from the knee injury that he had. He was whimpering on the sidelines, and on the field, all the other players could hear his and then all the problems with the car wash and the bodies and the shots. And Tony Scheffler at tight end. Okay. Jay Cutler never threw to him. How about that? Dolphins defense really wasn't a bad pick, maybe for this year, but as far as last year, you probably did some damage with the defense with the sacks, because they had a lot of sacks, but not a lot of turnovers or not a lot of huge special team plays. Adam Vinatieri, a field goal kicker. He's a dome kicker. He has great accuracy, but how many times does the Colts need to kick field goals? So, and then let's breeze through the bench. Willis McGahee, Chad Johnson, or other players. I don't want to say the bench. Willis McGahee, Chad Johnson, Brandon Stokely, Muhsin Muhammad, Matt Ryan, and the Redskins defense. This team doesn't even sound competitive. And that's why they get the first show in State of the Franchise and Big Things Fantasy Football League. They're not competitive. They need to actually bury themselves or unbury themselves from the basement, if you will. There's been a lot of crazier things happen in this league. There's a lot of irony. Teams from the bottom end up moving up. Teams from the top end up moving down. So that's the state of the franchise for Connecticut Legends. Doesn't look too promising. Bad coaching, bad management equals a bad place at the end of the year. Let's move on to the next team. George Robinson has actually been in this league for a while, and I have to say there probably are some fans around town, or maybe even in his household, that are starting to chatter. I definitely would believe that he would be on the hot seat this season. He's made great strides, as in people he's chose. I want that guy, but he fails to put teams together that will produce successful to be very competitive in this league. As an example, uh, let's just breeze through some of the personnel on the roster. Um, Quarterback Ben Roethlisberger. I understand Roethlisberger had a rough year, with all the injuries he was battling. Jabbar Gaffney, of course, he said Randy Moss is going to get doubled. This guy's going to pick up the slack, right? It doesn't matter if Randy Moss is doubled. Plus, Brady went down. Moss is still the main deal. Adrian Peterson was a great pick, and he only got Adrian Peterson because he was in position to pick him last year, which tells you he's buried at the bottom of the barrel. He's not producing effectively. Maurice Jones-Drew at running back two. Two great people. You're talking steps away from putting the team together. We just talked about Roethlisberger, Peterson, and Jones-Drew. Now, had you told me before the season started someone had those three people on their team, I said that team's going to be an effective team with manageable compared to what they do with the rest of the draft. But unfortunately, we got Jason Campbell, Chris Chambers, Patrick Creighton, Jericho Cartery. Right now, we're talking a whole bunch of second, third tier people that actually need to take the place, or not, that actually need to support those three people. And it goes on. Colts defense. Can you believe that? L.J. Smith for the tight end. Michael Pittman. Hank Baskett. These are guys that probably won't even make their teams this year. Let alone you want to make a difference on your fantasy team? They didn't even make a difference on their teams last year. They probably won't even make the teams this year. This is why he cannot get out of the bottom of the barrel. Who's going to help your team? Who's going to be effective? Not, I like this guy, so this guy. We're not pulling favors here. This is the Big Things Fantasy Football League. It's a copycat league out here, and we got a very stern commissioner, and we're about making strides. Every team should be competitive. So when you have when you have personnel on your team like Adrian Peterson, Maurice Jones-Drew, and Ben Roethlisberger, and I will draw the line at two people, and those two people will be Jabbar Gaffney because of Brady's injury. I think Gaffney is fully capable of being a legitimate number two receiver with any team. And since he's going to be in Denver now, he has the ability to be number one receiver. I fully believe that. But, when you have Peterson, Jones-Drew, and Ben Roethlisberger, that right there is a great alignment to say, okay, we need to be successful. We're going to be successful. I'm going to force this team to be successful. But when you go off in the rest of the, tangent of picking people, whether they're, free agents or whether it's the rest of your draft, it's horrible. It's very horrible. It's a sad thing to see, and that is why, I'm dressed in black. So let's not even waste any more time on this. Let's just get to the point. We're in late teams that hopefully get their wheels turning, and this is Big Things. It's all about not ready. You're your people, get her snug and cut outside. Thank you for joining us today. Big